Welcome back. Well, as consumers, we of course want to get what we pay for, but this saying has taken on far more serious implications than purely financial recently.
Yes, it has come out that some supplements and health products we thought were good for us were nothing but powdered rice or houseplants. That's right. Health correspondent Jim Morelli is here to tell us what we should be looking out for and how do we know who to trust. And Jim, I'm kind of hitting on a situation that happened in New York. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the New York State did an examination of various supplements, various brands, because they wanted to see what was in these supplements. And what they found was that in some cases they contained none of what was on the label. There was no supplement in there. There were fillers. Fillers that are kind of disturbing, houseplants, sawdust, that kind of thing. And it brings up the whole issue of how do you know what is on the label is in the bottle. So there is one way you can know, and that's what I want to talk about. There's an organization called the USP, or United States Pharmacopoeia. They're out of Washington area. It's a nonprofit scientific organization, and their thing is, for 200 years now, they've been testing for purity and quality and potency of various prescriptions, foodstuffs, and now vitamins and supplements. So they've got a program called USP Verified. Basically, a manufacturer will submit their product. If it will pass stringent tests of quality, purity, and potency, it'll get a mark on the label. And the mark is on the front of the bottle. It says USP Verified. Basically, that says to the consumer, you're getting what it says on the label is what's in the bottle. It's peace of mind.
Okay, so if we don't see that on the label, maybe stay away from that one. Move on down the line, because there's so many different brands of supplements out there now.
There are. Now, in some cases, if you don't see a USP verified mark, it may simply be that USP has not come up with a test yet for that particular product. So it may be okay, but it may be not okay. We really don't know. So this, for my sake, for my family, I would probably stick with USP verified stuff versus going with something that I have no idea what it is, because as we know, it could be almost anything.
Well, and I think that's the shocker here is that consumers may not, I think, are assuming that all of these supplements are under the same kind of regulations that, that medicine is, that we're getting, from the doctor. But they're not as, I guess, regulated as we thought.
No, 20 years ago, there was a law passed that essentially removed supplements and vitamins out of the FDA's purview. So away it went from the FDA, and now the FDA generally only gets involved with vitamins and supplements if something bad happens. Okay, if somebody gets hurt by a vitamin or supplement, then they can move in and say, we're taking these off the market. But until that happens, they don't really have a whole lot of authority over it.
And Jim, let's talk a little bit about what we should be putting into our bodies, because you did mention on break, somebody living in Arizona might not need the same things that somebody living on the East Coast might need.
That's correct, and specific vitamin D3. This is something that a lot of people assume they have a deficiency of, and many people do. But it's more common in areas where I live in Boston, where there's less sun, unfortunately. And so we probably need it more than you probably need it down here. But I always say to just walk into the pharmacy and take this, and this without getting some consultation is kind of crazy, because things can interact with other drugs. Talk to your pharmacist or your doctor about, is this okay for me to take? Will this harm me in any way?
And I think that's great that you're saying, consult with the pharmacist or your doctor, because I think friends start talking and they're like, oh, I'm taking this, and, you should start taking it. And I think the only thing that we were talking also that falls underneath that umbrella is like a multivitamin. And that's kind of something that we can all benefit from, but more specific, like we're talking fish oil or C or D or B12, that could be specific to you.
Correct. And keep in mind, things like fish oil, these can be fantastic. I mean, these can be a really, really good thing for your health. But yes, it's a very specific kind of thing. And so I would say everybody could benefit from a multivitamin. We have plenty of food in this country, but poor nutrition, right? People don't get enough vitamins. So that's probably harmless. But when you get beyond that and you start looking, then you got to kind of get some consultation on it.
And Jim, before we let you go, some advice for our viewers. What are some small steps we can take for big life changes?
Take small steps. That's the key. If you take a huge step and say, hey, I'm going to lose 30 pounds by spring break, that's probably not going to happen. Say, I'm going to lose 3 pounds by the end of March, and you'll do it and you'll stick with your program.
Small steps is key.
Absolutely.
I like it. Well, Jim, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today with some very valuable information.
My pleasure. Yes. Thank you.
And for more information, you can log on to uspverified.org.
That's a great website to check out.